57 players entered the tournament this morning, hoping to earn the invitation to the to the Pro Tour in London in a couple of months. 6 of them have already locked in their top 8 spots. They will play another round after this one to earn their invitations. However, 2 places are still open, so we got 2 in-ins, and we are going to watch one of them in just a couple of minutes. We have a winner in this time, so it's going to be quite exciting. We don't know who just yet, and we don't know who's locked in. How are you?
Top 8 spot. I'm well. Ready to provide entertaining and insightful commentary over the last match of the Swiss portion of the tournament.
All right. Have I entertained us?
This is the flavor text of Rakdos Showstopper.
Entertain me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he says, and it's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat one.
I mean, Rakdos is a pretty neat creature if you are lucky with your coin flips.
Coin flips. Yeah.
I had 7 of them in one situation. Lost 6 of them.
Oh, 7
Didn't
times.
go well.
I see. Yeah, it's like, see, I was kind of afraid when they spoiled Rakdos Showstopper because it literally flips the coins to determine frequently the outcome of the match, essentially. And it seems like plausibly close enough to be a constructed playable card, like in the sideboard or something like that.
Might be.
Like, yeah, no, nobody is playing Rakdos Showstopper right now, but like it's not impossible for them to do that, for people to do that. Like, it's not far off, so I was kind of unhappy about the fact that it got released in such a way, because as a Magic the Gathering player, I am always unhappy about randomness being present in my game, even though it's inherently present in like a much more significant way through mulligans and opening hands and well, just the mechanic of drawing a random card at the top of your deck. So it's just mostly psychological, probably.
All right. So the first player that we see taking place by the feature match is Sebastian, who played the Death Whirler deck yesterday.
Death Whirler. Exactly that archetype.
Yes. So the Chain Whirler deck splashing for status statue to
provide you with a plague wind effect to clear opponent's board in one fell swoop.
And the opponent currently on unknown, Joseph.
Hello, we have 6 rounds. You can play. You have 15 minutes.
Okay, the time for the round is starting. It has also started in the feature match area. Players will shuffle their decks and be ready. And get ready for the bataille. The win-ins are always like somewhat more stressful than the other rounds of the tournament, because, well, then you feel that you're just close and you are about to decide whether you walk away with an invite to the PT if you like fancy such a thing, and some people do, or if you just get to win some prizes, and well, that will be it for you. Of course, it's just a win-in for the top 8, and then in the top 8 you still need to win the quarterfinal to advance towards the top 4, because, well, to remind you, top 4 finishing players in this tournament qualify for the Mythic Championship in London in June, I believe.
So the players are getting ready to draw their opening hands, and we should be underway very shortly. Let's see if they like their sevens. Sebastian is 301 actually, so he's on 10 match points. Josef is on 12. Oh, Josef got paired down. That is why they have to play.
I mean, there is a mistake probably here, because I believe since the 6th round of the tournament, I believe Sebastian has played
Yeah,
5 matches before, and
so it should be 3-1 win.
the result would indicate that there will only. Now it is corrected, and I can comment on this matchup
So is it
comfortably.
Drakes?
Island
it's
go.
Drakes.
Is it Drakes? Is it Drake still a good deck? Sebastian choosing a different weapon for today's tournament, not sticking to the Death Whirler package and going with in a Forest Llanowar Elves deck, most likely a Sultai mid-range deck. That's the most that's the deck that's played those combination of cards most often.
Discovery, a follow-up from Josef. We'll see what he takes. Probably looking for a creature.
Keeping both, so it's probably liking what he has seen. Sebastian got the best start imaginable, and by best start I mean not actually utilizing the Llanowar Elf on turn 2. Just another elf, so he's going to have a lot of mana next turn. There's a Hydroid Crash in his hand, that's already pretty potent to play. There also might be Vivian Reed, and it's really scary for Josef to deploy an Enigma Drake here. We can see an Enigma Drake present in his hand, but it really takes some, some courage to deploy Enigma Drake here, because Vivian Reed resolving is a giant punish. Instead he goes with a Shock, removing one of the Llanowar Elves and waiting with the Enigma Drake until he can hold up a dive down to protect it. So Sebastian goes with just a turn 3 2/2 Hydroid Crashes to cycle it. Get a small flyer.
Yeah, but you could see how much respect Josef paid to that possibility of turn 3 Vivian Reed.
Yeah, I mean they have 3 Vivian Reeds. It's very likely that they have it.
Yeah.
So it is game losing on the spot, so you really don't want to corner yourself in such a situation. So
Now it is different. Now you have the possibility to protect the Drake, so it isn't as big of a deal.
especially like this is why you also can afford to do this. Like if you have no better option ever during the game, then it's probably not ideal to wait for a long time. But you could have been Josef had the 4th land and the dive down in his hand available, so he knew that if he just waits until the next turn, he will be able to perform all of those game actions and play protected Drake.
Sebastian's going to try to cast down the Enigma Drake. That's going to be met with a dive down. So an exchange of resources here.
A sorcerer speed cast down notably. Just passing the turn. A sorcerer speeding that is maybe questionable, but there is some upside to that. Like otherwise you would do it in Josef's upkeep to constrain one of his silence, but Sebastian chose to just try for a sorcerer speed one to maybe sneak in 2 points of damages with Crassus. And notably, you can see a copy of a main deck negate in Josef's And negate is interesting because that's not a typically not a card that's typically seen in those decks, in their main decks, but it's decently useful against many decks in the format, so you probably are going to have targets for it anyway, so you can really get people to.
Sebastian gets in for 2 points of damage with the Hydrate Crisis. Now both players at 17. Is this going to be a bigger brother to the Crisis? Yes, it is.
It's a very good play
It
for
is.
Sebastian. Much better than casting a Finality. Would I have seen that he had 2 Finalities in his hand? Having a Find Finality in my hand would actually kind of prompt me towards jump blocking with the first Crisis to begin with. So maybe I can just buy
to
it.
pick it up.
Yeah, just to buy it back. But it's also kind of aggressive, and it was kind of early to do that. If he had another Crisis in his hand, there was not too much point in doing that yet, because you probably will be able to jump block somewhere along the way.
So yeah, 2 cards, 2 life, 4 counters. That's a good rate. Now the Drake is 6-4 actually at this point.
Does Joseph have a lava coil to cleanly deal with that crisis? There is a lava coil to do that. Very good against Find Finality too.
Since the Crosses is exiled.
Not able to pick it up later on.
Now attack for 7 will drop Sebastian to 12. Perhaps a couple more spells or another creature, and you've got yourself a lethal on board.
Yeah, holding up a spell piece to protect yourself from a Find Finality, the Finality side.
Because I believe that there is a removal spell for the small crisis.
No, his hand is spell pierce and negate now.
Oh really? Okay.
So it's protected from spells, but it's not killing Sebastian
Just
as
yet.
of right now. But you know, spell pierce into negate is going to counter most of the things that you could present. So looking tough for Sebastian. So he has a tough decision to make, and he's going to try to play around some cards, but not really possible potentially. I don't see the exit components of his hand, but I see Find Finality, another one. It needs a cheaper removal spell.
Yeah, the Find Finality is not going to resolve. There is a cast down, I think. Find Finality, goes for it. But
Yeah, just goes with Finality and then concedes the game. I would say that was kind of premature, given the fact that could have just blocked with the crisis and didn't knew about the negate, but
he
Even
decides
the-
that it's too much, he doesn't want to waste any more time, prefers to go to the board.
given the presence of the negate, this is how it would have to end anyways.
Okay, so today a more classic Saltai approach for Sebastian. Generally, I don't know who's better. I mean, I don't know which deck I like better here.
Well, I said before that I was the fan of the Sultai side, especially given the Hydrate Crushes. The Hydrate Crushes being able to, you know, once you get it for 6 or more mana, being able to hold back a Drake itself is pretty huge. Once you get it for 7 mana, it's not even counterable by a Lava Coil. So I do like this card in this
Scenario.
matchup. The Limited Baron plan is really not reliable for the Drake's decks, and you know there's also the threat of Vivian Reed. Like again, Vivian Reed is a card that our round 1 competitor ported out against the Drake's deck, out of his deck, and it seemed to make a lot of sense, but
Yeah, he told me in the interview that a 5 mana plummet on the draw is not gonna cut it.
Yeah, that's not the greatest type of a card to have against a deck chock full of spell pierces and cantrips that take you towards those.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, but if you back it up with a bunch of duresses, it is actually pretty strong. So, I do like the Sultai side. Like you can really stock up on removal and just try to not let the Drake's deck ever assemble a threat. Because what most of the threats do is just have power, a lot of power, and a few points of toughness, and they don't really do much else besides that. So like as long as you stop the bodies of those monsters, then you should be fine, and your late game is going to trump the Drake's deck's late game. Given enough time and enough mana to power into Hydroid Crassus. Sebastian is going to be on the play in this game, unless he chooses otherwise.
All right. So, the current set of lands that are available in Standard kind of makes it very much possible to create those very stable 3-color mana bases.
Yeah, that's true.
So, do you think that there is still room for improvement for this just straight up blue-red Drake's deck? Do you pack in another color, maybe add some other suite of removal with black, or do you think it's good enough already as it is?
I've seen some talk of splashing in cards into this deck. I've seen some talk about splashing in green to play Growth Spiral in this deck.
Okay.
Which was interesting, and I have seen some talk about splashing black for Thought Erasure in this deck, and like both are decentish, but the thing with this deck is that the mana base, this deck runs a lower amount of lands than most other decks and relies on the cantrips to hit a lot of those, so that makes it so that you naturally need a higher color count to hit your color early to then be able to use your cantrips to find your extra lands.
That might be a bit painful.
Yeah, that might be a bit painful with all the shocklands you would need to include, and it might be kind of tough mana source, amount of mana source wise when building the mana base consisting of 3 colors and still keeping that lower than typical land count. So I think the Drake's deck is kind of not too well suited for splashing additional colors.
Well, we still have like half a year of those check lands being available in Standard, so we will see what happens. In the meantime, we had a Wild Growth Walker, then it died to a Lava Coil, got exiled, no life gain to be had. Merfolk Branchwalker revealed a Carnage Tyrant on top of Sebastian's deck, and it stayed there.
So points towards Sebastian having a sizable amount of lands and, you know, some good combination of lands and action, because otherwise you would probably drop a 6-drop.
Of course, of course.
He chose to keep it though.
Another Terramander added to Joseph's board. And let's see. Yeah, jam that Branchwalker in. Jade Light Ranger joining the party. Another one on top.
Potentially relying on this Jade Light Ranger to hit his land drops, but he just keeps it twice. Which
kind of indicates that he might have the lands necessary to
Well, not really. Like Jade Light Ranger, like you can keep a Jade Light Ranger because it
Yeah.
is going to dig you towards your lands. On 3. But you know,
It's not always 100%.
yeah. I mean, it is actually more likely that like if all you care about is to hit your land drop, it is actually more beneficial to keep the Jade Light Ranger on top
Yeah.
because you're going to see to dig one card deeper than you would see otherwise.
And maybe, you know, maybe some,
Unless your like next card is also Jade Light Ranger.
just like we saw in round 1 or round 2, I think it was round 1, maybe Sebastian just wants to be the aggressor in this matchup. Maybe he just wants to get those 4 power creatures out.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in making the Jade Light Ranger a 4 power creature.
Because then
this
the
matchup.
Drakes are not very good blockers against those, and you can put pressure on the other player.
Yep.
So that may be that plan. Also, when the Carnage Tyrant eventually hits the battlefield, I mean,
You want Joseph to have a lower life total, so you can actually punish him for that. So, you know, Joseph is already going to drop to 10 because Sebastian has 7 power with those 2 measly
Merfolk.
Merfolks. You know, imagine if this White Walker would stay alive.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty huge. Gain a bunch of
Crust is on
life.
top is also pretty huge. Alright, land goes in hand. Overgrown Tomb tapped, enters the battlefield. There is a forest in hand for Sebastian.
Yeah, a forest and a Carnage Tyrant, and I think an extra forest. So, just curved out well with regular monsters and like Joseph. Meanwhile, Joseph was busy casting 2 mana cantrips and those Salamanders, which not going to adapt anytime soon anyways. Because he didn't get enough instant sorceries into his graveyard, so he's just like chipping for 2 damages, but meanwhile there's a lethal amount of damages awaiting Joseph on the ground.
Deploys a 3/4
Yeah.
Enigma Drake.
It's pretty easy Carnage Tyrant, then you just attack with both Jade Lights and you might end up trading a Jade Light for a dive down, but that's
I mean, the one of the Jade Light is a 3/2.
Oh, that's true. That is true. You attack with just the 4/3 Jade Light. I kind of assumed that the one with the 1 dice on it is going to be 4/3, but that was my mistake. Still, I really will imagine this turn being the turn where you drop the Carnage Tyrant. Shouldn't be too afraid of dying, and you know the Carnage Tyrant pressure.
They're not going to remove it anyway.
Yeah, it's not going to die really, save for Discovery Dispersal splashes, but that's not even what everybody plays.
I like this attack.
You can also try to go wide, but he'll block a 3/2 and they take 7, go to 3, and now you have 3 lethal threats next turn. One of them has 7 power and trample. So it's actually lethal through a Drake.
Seems good. All right, let's drop that forest.
So I also like that, not too protective of his ground creatures, just like recognizing the value that there is in converting your creatures into damage.
So keeping the Carney D on top really paid off.
Yeah, paid off since he managed to curve out well.
Player Simon Lane.
That is a tough nut to crack for Joseph.
So we are in Yosa's end step, right? He has a shock, if I am correct, right?
I think that's it.
Just a dive down.
I think it's Sebastian's end step.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, okay.
So Joseph is thinking about whether to potentially fire off the dive down just to make the Terramanders easier to adapt. It's hardly a winning play, but Life is tough for Josef right now. Probably just going to cast in another country, but like hope it's going to affect the game in a way that's actually nice for him. He has an extra Crackling Drake, excuse me, Enigma Drake. So if his board would be 2 Drakes, 2 Pteramanders, then still he would need to block with 2 Drakes, or like with a Drake and a Pteramander on this Carnage Tyrant, lose both, jump with a Pteramander on a Merfolk, and then jump block with a Enigma Drake on a on the small Branch Walker, which you then get to kill. The end result is that there's a 4-3 and you are left with a Enigma Drake, but your opponent also drops a Hydroid Crisis with X5, draws 2 cards and has a 5-5 flying trample monster available. So he needs to decide how to scry and charge a course. Too slow in this spot, probably unable to get back into the game. Josef spent a lot of his mana on cantrips, Sebastian spent a lot of his mana on monsters. Monsters won in the end, especially given the fact that they were on the play.
Still digging deeper.
There are lines where you survive with dive down, but you also have to champ block with 2 Pteramanders. We're waiting for a
decision.
Josef to maybe find a way out of this, but cannot think of one myself.
There is a dive down in his hand, actually, yeah.
But the dive down does not really help. Carnage Tyrant has 7 power, so you need to block Enigma Drake on Carnage Tyrant. So then you need to dive down the Enigma Drake not to die. Then you need to champ twice with your Pteramanders.
Yeah, and then you're
so
still
you have
facing...
You have an empty board versus 2 lethal threats, and there's also the 5-5 crushes coming.
Yeah.
So Sebastian is going to consider his options and think of possible ways for Josef to get back into the game. One card he could be afraid of is maybe Shock, but that's not actually a card you should be afraid of too much, since the end result is the same. You lose your Carnage Tyrant, but you still end up with a lethal threat versus an opponent with no board. I mean, you lose one of your Merfolk Branchwalkers, and which is a downside, of course, but thankfully to the amount of lethal threats, Josef cannot try to block with double block with Enigma Drake and a Pteramander on Carnage Tyrant and then adapt a Pteramander. This one is not going to work. Yeah, let's say like quadruple champ. I mean, it kills you, Carnage Tyrant. So.
Yeah. I mean, the Carnage Tyrant itself, the Drake itself shouldn't have died. With the, or is it? Oh no, it's
well,
plus
Carnage
3.
Tyrant
Plus
has
3,
7
yeah.
power and it has
Yeah.
7 toughness, so it is perfectly correct for it to die.
I thought, for some reason, I thought that dive down was plus 4 to the toughness, but it's fine. Yeah. So as I said, the 5-5 crashes dropped, and now it's even more of a tough turn for Josef.
Well, I mean, in some ways it's actually easier because it just kind of knows that he's dead.
Yeah.
More
You
so
can
than
just scoop.
the last turn.
Yep. So turns out it was easier. All right. So we will have our final deciding game 3 in our win and in at the RPTQ in Szczecin, Poland. The RPTQ for the Mythic Championship in London in June, we think. We're not sure.
I am sure.
Oh, you are sure. All right, so it's
I
going to happen in June.
I do believe that being on the play has some huge effects on this matchup, because if you're on the play, you are able to spend your cards. You know, like if had Josef been on the play, he would have basically an extra turn to develop his cantrips, and then potentially could be able to block those creatures. Because like it was not even like Josef was clearly lacking time and mana. Like if he had time to adapt his Pteramanders and have 5 eyes to block the 7/6, then we would have a entirely different game. And it would be definitely not the same.
Some of the players have already collected their prizes. They are playing the best format in the world, Booster Blitz. It's where you open up a booster pack and create small decks of 3 cards.
We call that Booster Blitz.
Yeah, it's called Booster Blitz. It's officially called Booster Blitz. It's going to be available at a Magic Fest in
Is it true?
later this year. Yes, yes.
Okay. I had only heard it referred to as Pi Go Magic.
One more time.
I had only heard it to be referred as Pi Go Magic.
Oh, okay.
But that was on, I don't know, somewhere on the internet.
All right. The format is great. You get 5 life, unlimited amount of mana, and cards like Lava Axe are just the best.
Yeah, it is pretty fun, like especially if you have like some crazy packs, like both you and your opponent have Inescapable Blaze, and you end up facing the free card deck with Inescapable Blaze against your opposing decks with the same card, and like, okay, Blaze you, and your opponent's like, no, Blaze you, and wins because, well,
Revitalize.
his spell resolves first. So
Yeah.
those two do not exist in the same set, so you cannot
yeah.
combine those in a single deck. You cannot open both of those.
Yeah, but one of my favorite combos in that, let's say, format was Sovereign's Bite. Creature to get back an instant or sorcery from a graveyard, Sovereign's Bite. Never expect the second one.
Nice.
Nice. Okay, Josef decides,
To mulligan on the play.
yeah, that's not something you want to do.
Let's see if
Never,
Sebastian
ever.
keeps his 7-card hint. Seems like that is the case, so unless that's a fairly slow way to decide on whether you mulligan or not.
And let's remind you that this is a win and in, so the winner of this match will most likely find themselves in the top 8 of this RPTQ, and where they will play just one more match, and the winner of that match gets the invitation to the Mythic Championship. So Sebastian decided to mulligan as well. That was a...
Turns out his hand was not good enough in his estimation. He mulligans
Neither
to
is this one.
5 now, so. Mulligan to 5 is the territory where it starts to
get
some
pretty
percent of the time become miserable, but still there are good 5-card hand that can put up a fight.
Indeed, there are. We will see.
I have won games on Magic Online, starting with 4 or 3 cards. Never in limited, but I have done that in modern. I have done it in standard. It is possible. Well, I guess I have also won from mulligans to 1, but that was playing Vintage Dredge, so it doesn't really count.
That's not playing Magic. That's a different game.
Scry at the bottom. Do you prefer when your opponent scries to the top, or do you prefer it when they scry at the bottom?
I guess it doesn't really matter. I don't know what the card is. I mean, if they scry to the top, then you know that it's something they want. But when they scry to the bottom, that might be something that was suboptimal, but they might just top the most perfect card. I mean, it's
No. So like the way you can view it is that, you know, if your opponent, Sebastian missing a second land drop, that's kind of devastating, especially since the first one was memorial to folly. But
yeah.
the way to look at it is that if your opponent is mulliganing and they scry at the bottom, that means that they got value out of their scry. Given if there was no scry rule before, they would be forced to draw that bad card. So like they got in value of the, well, not that newly, but like the Vancouver mulligan rule that has not always been a thing.
Yes.
So, you know, it is kind of tilting that they get the value from that to some people. And if they leave the card on the top, that means that their first draw step is going to be good. But no, they didn't need the scry rule. So the question is, which one annoys you more? Or maybe you are just a chill dude and just, you know,
I'm fine with both.
fine with both. It's a
Yeah.
reasonable stance to take, and maybe the
Yeah.
most reasonable one.
Okay, so there is a second land on Sebastian's side of the battlefield. He found also a Merfolk Branchwalker that revealed
Find
Find
finality.
Finality,
bend
died
it.
to a shock. And now we have a Terramander. There is a third land.
No blue mana
Woodland
yet.
Cemetery. No blue mana yet. Plague Crafter. Interesting.
Sebastian had a Wildgrowth Walker in his hand, but pretty clearly he's prioritizing dealing with Josef's threats over developing his own threats, which is fairly understandable. Again, as I said, like the Drake stacks are really,
Threat Light.
yeah, like they are prone to running out of threats and like spending some more time trying to dig for the extra Drake. So that can definitely happen. And that is a way to recover from a mulligan to 5. For example, now actually Josef has a Crackling Drake in hand, but cannot cast it, given the fact that he only has a limited amount of mana.
Jade Light Ranger.
So Sebastian is trying to rebuild his position with a J-Light Ranger that effectively draws him a card, the 5th land, and now suddenly we have a game. Sebastian rebuilding from his mulligan to 5, while Josef is actually struggling a little to hit his 4th land drop and utilize his cards fully. That said, Josef's hand is really good, so certainly not going to be easy for Sebastian to claw back and actually win it.
Yeah, Josef has a couple Drakes, a couple removal spells. Also that entrancing melody that we saw earlier.
In the gate. Does he have an answer to Vivian Reed right now? If Sebastian would be to play Vivian Reed?
I don't think
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one.
So uses Find to get back a couple creatures. I would assume like at least one of them would be a Plague Crafter.
Probably is going to get a Playcrafter and either a Merfolk Branchwalker or the second Playcrafter. I have seen a glimpse of Scarnish Tyrant in his hand. That really means that Sebastian wants to hit his land drops. So Merfolk Branchwalker is perfect for that. Playcrafter deals with the next threat that Josef is going to develop.
And there we go. Branchwalker hits the battlefield, reveals a forest.
That's really good for Sebastian. He can play the forest, and if he draws the 6th land, he can play a Carnage Tyrant and then use the removal spells to claw back. And you see, Josef misses his 4th land drop again.
No, he doesn't draw the 6th land.
But he gets a
However,
Chupacabra, so
yes.
you get to put some tempo, some pressure onto Josef.
discovery.
Is Joseph going to find his fourth land to maybe try to match the rate at which
Yeah, he
Sebastian
does.
plays his spell? Indeed did. But that also leaves him with a good window to play Karnstein. If he draws a
Yes.
6th land, and he just did. There's a 6th land in Sebastian's hand, so he gets to play the 6th land,
Just slam it.
slam the Carnage Tyrant, and now that's a really tough question to answer. Oh, he goes to the
Hydroid
Crassus.
Crassus. Okay. That's also a good play. And now if Drake gets to the battlefield, you just upgrade your Merfolk Branchwalker to a Plague Crafter. And still jam in. I think that Sebastian has done a really good job rebuilding from this. But there is an entrancing melody that you talked about many times. For just 2 mana, stealing this very relevant body.
By 2 you mean 4, you actually need
Yeah,
to pay
yeah,
4
of course,
mana.
of course.
X equals to.
X equals to, yes, yes.
The Plague Crafter
Thank you.
can deal with that, so that would not happen had Sebastian played the Carnage Tyrant over that. But I can understand the ways in which there are some upsides towards playing this one. The Hydroid Crosses to hit more land drops and to not stop hitting your land drops as you are pressuring Joseph. Unfortunately, that means that there might not be a great window for him to resolve the Carnage Tyrant in the near future.
Let's see if there are any other plays that he would like to make. A land drop. And a Wildgrowth Walker, alright. That could also get pretty big pretty quickly. Crackling Drake the answer.
So very smartly, Sebastian prioritized spending his non-Plague Crafter removal spells.
Yes.
And now he has a Plague Crafter against Joseph holding a
Dive down or
Dive
spell
down.
pierce.
or Spell Pierce, and Plague Crafter just shrugs off both of those. This is why Plague Crafter is a pretty good option to dunk on the Drake's matchup, since they don't have much counterplay to it. Besides just like putting extra Pteromoners early on the battlefield early, but like you still end up losing your Pteromoners in the relevant cards that you want to keep on the battlefield. So there's just no good solution for the Plague Crafter problem. It's also you're also able to find that with Vivian Reed if you choose to keep that in your deck. Sebastian is considering his options. I couldn't have ever get a good look at his hand. He chooses to attack first before casting the Plague Crafter to kill the Crackling Drake off. It is possible that he's going to choose to just deploy Carnage Tyrant or a Hydroid Crosses this turn again. But he values the enhanced clock more so than that. All of the creatures are kind of bad, so the Crackling Drake is going to eat a bad creature up. And it's not that big of a deal. And he still goes to 7, and at 7 Carnage Tyrant needs to be blocked, and since it's not easily blocked, it puts Joseph in a tougher situation. So I do like this play.
And there it is. The huge dinosaur hits the battlefield. Detection Tower.
It's the tech for the mirror match. You cannot really afford to play it if you touch blue more than just slightly. So many of the Photo Erasure type decks, they really don't want to play a colorless land in their Jadelight Ranger, Llanowar Elf, Photo Erasure, Thief of Sanity deck. But Sebastian is seemingly only touching blue lightly, so he wants to have a way to unshare opposing Carnage Tyrants with removal spells. Not everyone is running Carnage Tyrant nowadays, but
When they do, you'd rather be prepared.
yeah, yeah. So Josef knows that there is still the threat of the Playcrafter. Forcing a sacrifice. That means that there will be presumably only one blocker, like up to no more than one blocker on Josef's side to prevent him from dying, and well, it seems like that might not be enough. Notably too, Detection Tower has another, it's like doing another thing, because it actually counters dive down.
Yes, it does. It does. So
If you activate it, dive down just has plus O, it's just like plus O plus 3 combat trick with no extra text.
decides to go for attack. Kills the Ravenous Chupacabra.
Is it pre-damage?
Mm-hmm.
That will mean that Sebastian goes to 11. Okay, okay. Like, it's still only reasonable to attack with this Crescent Drake because, you know, while it is looking tough for Josef, he's not actually lost the game yet.
Not really.
He's not
no.
actually lost the game yet. Sebastian will play Playcrafter, force a sacrifice, but then probably Josef, I assume he will sacrifice the
Tapped creature.
trapped creature over the untapped one.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Carnage Tyrant will trade for the Drake, which has 9 power, but will trample 3 points. Bring Josef to 3 damages. And what are the contents of Sebastian's hands? There are the Hydrate Crush that he can conveniently play for free. For mana, which would be a free draw card.
Josef offers the trade.
You probably just allowed that to happen. Again, I cannot see the exact contents of Sebastian's hand, but just keeping it close to his chest. But I do believe there's a Hydrate Crisis in there. At least one.
Is there a cast down? Because
Yeah, you probably just still allowed that to happen. Like, you might be negating. You probably would just play a free crisis to have another lethal threat next turn.
all right.
Because otherwise you don't have it. I assume that's the thing that he wants to do. He actually just passes the turn. So again, cannot see the contents of his hand.
Maybe he's thinking about Memorial to Folly, bringing back the Carnage Tyrant.
It's just
to his
slow,
hand.
but a possible plan. Would be tempted to make the plays that affect the board more.
Josef opts. Under 5 minutes left on the clock for this round. And we do have a nail biter here.
Well, this game looks like as it is, like as it if it's supposed to end in a relatively short order. So it is true though that the players have been taking their time. Now this is not a match without stakes, so potentially why. But regardless of what is happening, you are required to play your games at a reasonable pace. So no matter how big the stakes are.
Crackling Drake the play. Emphatic go. And let's see what Sebastian does.
There's one man on top, so like he could cast down if he has said cast down. And still use the detection tower to counter that, and then actually he has lethal damage by bringing back J-Light Ranger, exploring twice, and dealing 3 to Joseph. Detection tower pooping on dive down is actually kinda interesting. Like I've never thought of that combination of cards, but like, I always thought of the detection tower being only the tool for the mirror match. So yeah, Memorial to Folly, assuming it targets a J-Light Ranger. Unless both of those got exiled. Which I believe was not the case. I think there is a J-Light Ranger in there.
There should be.
I think I have seen it, but Sebastian's still thinking of some other options, like maybe taking it slower and not
Not killing your opponent.
taking that line. It's fairly easy to miss. So again, unless I'm really incorrect and I just and both of those J-Light Rangers got actually lava coiled, but don't seem like it's going to be the case. Brings back a Carnage Tyrant. Can he play it this turn? I would assume so.
He can't.
Well, he would need to play a land, right? No,
he would
he
need
can't.
to play two actually.
Okay, so Sorcerer Speeds brings this back and passes the turn
And
with Joseph on 2 life. That was
sloppy. Joseph does have another blocker that will require an answer.
an extra Drake.
Yep.
Of Enigma variety.
Of Enigma variety, an enigmatic one.
This is tough. I'm not sure how many spells Joseph has in his graveyard right now, but it's probably around being very close to the required 11 that will kill Sebastian in 1 hit. And like also bringing back Carnage Tyrant at Sorcerer Speed is also pretty tough, since you don't actually gain much by doing that. So you could just you also gain more options by waiting on the Memorial to Folly. Like the Playcrafter, that would require, that would kill the Drake that's about to block.
The time is running out.
That's the end of the time. We are going to be entering the extra turns soon, but this game is looking like it's going to end one way or the other during the next turn cycle, possibly. Not entirely sure what was the draw for Sebastian. And again, not entirely sure what are the contents of Sebastian's hand, because again, it was not easy to see that.
So there are 11 spells in the graveyard, so
Exactly the required amount. Draw on a Braska's Contempt. Just a pretty great draw.
it is.
Just gets countered by a negate, which Joseph, fortunately for him, has.
Spell number 12. Detection tower does not save you from this one.
Yeah, it only works well against dive down. Does Sebastian actually still have the Hydrate Crush in his hand? Because if that is the case, he could play blocker to protect himself for the extra turn.
He
But he
extends
just
the hand.
extends the hand, and the win goes to Josef Sivits.
So congratulations to him. He will be our top 8 competitor. I guess since we just went to time, so I guess we will not have any winners interview. We will try to bring you the top 8 as soon as possible. So please stand by. We have finished the Swiss portion of the tournament, and we will see the standings. We will give you the names of the players qualified for the top 8 and the players who will try to qualify for the Pro Tour. So stay tuned and be right back in a couple of minutes.
Exactly.